So I kept getting interrupted during the filming of this, and if I seem a little tired, that's why. I couldn't find any time this week other than like right now, and I kept getting sabotaged. Anyway. So hello and welcome back. This week I'm very excited because I am reviewing Hypo Full of Love by, and I'm really sorry if I mispronounce this, Emma Kimball Markey. It's a very sweet coming-of-age LGBTQ romance. So it follows these two boys through the very end of their senior year of high school into what's the freshman year of college for one boy and what would be for the other. So in high school, you know, you got your kind of like introverted nerd who he knows that he's gay, and he has the biggest crush on his best friend's brother, which I realize sounds a little bit basic, but you know, I think it's a really plausible trope, even though it is a trope that I feel like is used kind of a lot. So honestly, I didn't have a problem with it. Similarly, the crush, who doesn't know he's gay, happens to be like the school's champion boxer. Like, he's kind of your basic jock. And so the whole jock falling in love with kind of the nerdy type, also a little bit basic, also pretty realistic. So I think that was also well done, the way that it was written. Anyway, so one, obviously, as I said, goes off to college, while the other makes his way to Portland. And honestly, he kind of has a hard time doing that. Right before he leaves, he's having a conversation with a family member, and it doesn't go well. And long story short, so that I don't spoil it too much for you, he gets into drugs, which is just kind of heartbreaking. And what's also kind of heartbreaking is that while he's going through all of, frankly, this crap, like, he's alone in Portland, he barely knows anyone, he's hooked on drugs, he's living out of his car, like, it's just a lot. The love of his life is down in California, like, going to school and ignoring him, which I thought was a little bit odd. I mean, I've been in a long distance relationship, but like, we did talk every day. And there's this period where it sounds like it's possibly months where they just don't say anything because the one at school is too busy, or at least that's his excuse. And that's kind of where I had a little bit of trouble with this character, because even though a lot of the book I feel like is very realistic, it's very relatable, it's like finding that first love, finding who you are, trying to figure out school and stuff, he's just I found him to be very defensive. So like, he has this roommate, and the roommate is all like, oh hey, I think this other guy likes you. And he's like, what? No, there's no way you could like me. And then like a while later, it becomes apparent that the other guy likes him. And I don't know, that was just like a little not problematic for me, but it made it more difficult for me to like him as a character. The character in Portland, meanwhile, who's going through a lot, I really liked his character, even though he was hooked on drugs, and I felt kind of bad for him about that. But he did end up finding some good people up in Portland. I really liked, there's this character that, in my head, he's just like Thor. They describe him as like this tall dude with like long, flowing blonde hair, and so like in my head, he's just Thor. And I thought he was a really great character, because he's supportive and he's realistic and he's not annoying like college kid down in California is. And I know that sounds maybe a little bit harsh, but like, I don't know, I think all of the characters were well written. I just felt like some of their quirks were a little annoying, for lack of a better word. I just know that personally, I don't have a whole lot of patience for people who like are consistently defensive about things that they don't need to be defensive about, and that's something that I need to work on. But so then when I see it in books, it makes it a little bit more difficult for me to empathize with those characters. Overall, though, I think the plot was thought out. It was very dramatic. So, like, while there were some aspects of it that were, like, maybe a little bit basic, like the trope of, like, the having a crush on the best friend's sibling, or nerd and jock falling in love, I think that it was realistic in the fact that it's, like, two kids who are trying to figure themselves out and trying to figure out life and love at the same time. But on the other side, I don't know, just some of the events, especially around the whole, like, drug thing, I felt like that was really good in terms of, like, dramatic elements. But I don't know the stats of teen opiate users. So for me, that was, like, a little bit unrealistic. The romance aspect, I think that was really well done, how they're both a little bit unsure. I don't know, I wanted to know more. I wanted to see more of their reunion. I wanted to see more of their relationships develop, because I felt like, you know, you go through the standard rom-com, like, well, I'll adapt it for LGBTQ because I feel like most rom-coms are heteronormative, but, you know, boy meets boy, boy falls in love with boy, boy loses boy, boy gets boy back. And I felt like the time between boy loses boy and boy gets boy back was just such a short span of time. And I feel like it was just so serious that that made it a little bit difficult for me to believe. And that's kind of going back to my own experience. I mentioned that I had been in a long-distance relationship that was also like a high school into college relationship, and just in my experience, they don't work. I know for other people they do. But for me, as much of a hopeless romantic as y'all know me to be, I am a little bit skeptical in those sorts of situations. So, if you're wanting to read it just for pure enjoyment of romance, I think it's a great option. I really did enjoy it. If you're reading something where you're just like, I want a realistic romance, I think most of the time it'll do it for you. Yeah, I think overall it was a good book. There are just some small parts that didn't quite do it for me, but that's not to say that they were poorly done. I think overall the book was very well written. It was very well thought out. I really liked how in the intro the dedication was to all the people who haven't seen themselves in love stories, and that was just really sweet to me. So definitely do recommend. That's all I have for Hypo Full of Love. This is my last book review for 2020. I'm taking December off, but I will see y'all next year. Very excited for that. Thanks.